These two flashes look different, they are different, but they share one common feature. They both have really good modeling lamps. Now, if you've no idea why you'd use a modeling lamp in a studio environment, I'm going to show you 5, 6, maybe 7 good reasons in this video, and I'll also give you a couple of reasons why modeling lamps don't necessarily do what you might expect them to do. But the only way to really show you that is to get a light set. Let's get a model in, let's get shooting. To help me out today, I've got the amazing Chloe. Chloe's going to be the model for this photo session, and I'm going to start with the most useful tip I can give you for a modeling lamp. And this is perhaps the one reason I like modeling lamps, because you can do this. I know that light is turned on and I don't have to go and check. And that is so useful because I've heard photographers occasionally set up their lights and haven't actually turned them on. Now, obviously, I've never done that in the studio. Anyway, let's move on to perhaps the more obvious use for a modeling lamp, which is I can point the light towards Chloe and work out roughly where the light's going to go without taking any test photos. So in this case, I want to light Chloe and I want to cast a bit of a shadow onto the background, and I can see where the light reaches Chloe and when it's not on Chloe. Now, this comes in super useful if you're working with models who aren't quite as experienced as Chloe, because lots of test photos can be quite distracting. So the less test photos you can take, the better your session's going to go. Now, in Chloe's case, she's used to me taking test photos, but nonetheless, it still speeds things up a lot. Another reason you might want to use a modeling lamp is because of the room lighting. Now, we're lucky, it's really bright in here, but perhaps you work in a darker environment, a little bit more like this. And in that case, a modeling lamp can really help, because if I turn it off, your camera would have to try and focus in this versus on, which is much brighter on Chloe, which means the autofocus is going to work more efficiently. You're going to get more successful in-focus pictures. Of course, we don't have to work in the dark here, so I'm going to turn the light back on. Here we go. So this is all working really well. And in fact, I think we should just take a few photos like this. So Chloe, are you ready? Here we go. If you're wondering whether the modeling lights stay on when the flash fires, yes they do, but they don't add to the exposure unless your flash power is set extremely low or your shutter speed is very long. We've got a different setup for this look, and another reason why a modeling lamp is a must-have when you're using flash. In this case, it's a beauty light setup. Now, like all setups, the eyes are absolutely vital, and one way you can get really good eyes in your portraits is to have a catchlight. That's that little tiny bit of light you see reflected off the eye. Now, if I turn my modeling lamp on, I can see whether I'm going to get a catchlight and where it's going to be, and even how large it is, just by adjusting my lights long before I take a photo. So no more test photos. You get to see exactly the result of the catchlight before you take your picture. So once I've got that in place, I can actually take a photo and see what we get. And if I zoom in close, yes, what I can see with my eyes is matched on the final photo. We have a great little catchlight in Chloe's eyes. The opposite is actually true with glasses. So if I give Chloe some sunglasses to wear, what I don't want is a reflection of the light in the sunglasses. So I can see if Chloe looks up, the light is going to be reflected in the sunglasses. So I can adjust the position of my light to take that into account. A modeling lamp is super useful for getting this part right before you take any photos. One of my favorite things to do with a beauty light setup is to actually use a shallow depth of field. So I've switched to an f1.2 lens, and theoretically, I actually don't need to use the flash, because that is a lens that lets in lots of light. The trouble is, it also lets in a lot of the room light. So if I take a picture, no flash, f1.2, I'm not getting my classic no flash, no picture. Partly because I'm not using flash, but mostly because the room lights are too bright. So I need to turn the room lights off like this, which is fantastic, but now we can't see Chloe, and that's where the modelling lamps come in. So I'm going to turn the modelling lamps on, and although they're not very bright, they are bright enough to get me a really good exposure. Now, to make this work, you do need to have bright modelling lamps, so I'm using the Explore 400 from Flashpoint, which has a very bright modelling lamp, and at the back is the Evolve 200 Pro Mark II, which has almost the same brightness of modelling lamp. Full power modelling lamps, f1.2, no flash whatsoever. I get a great photo with a really good exposure. In fact, it's so good, that's all I need to do, and I think we should just take a few photos like this. Chloe, are you ready? Okay, here we go. Two things to be aware of with full power modelling lamps. The first is your batteries will discharge quite a bit quicker, and secondly, if you're hoping to use these as video lights, well, the fan noise might be a bit of an issue. I'll call them side benefits, but a bright modelling lamp will reduce the pupil diameter, which makes your model's eyes look better and allows you to use cameras that don't work with flash. So it could be your phone, or in my case, my Instax instant camera. Of course, it's not all good news with modelling lamps. There are some things you might think it can help you with, but actually it can't. And one of them is to show you exactly what your light's going to do before you press the shutter. Now, to be clear, it will show you the rough direction of the light, but it won't show you the quality of the light, particularly the shadows. For example, when I look at this backlit setup here, I can see the modelling lamp is definitely lighting the front of Chloe's face, but I can also see more of the room lights going on as well. And you might think that's exactly what you're going to get, except when I press the shutter, what I actually see from the flash is very different to what I'm seeing from the modelling lamp. Now, this is an extreme example, but it can happen in smaller ways as well, particularly if you're not using a softbox and you're using a slightly harder light source, like we're going to set up next. And finally, gels. Gels and modelling lamps can be quite an adventure to get right. Now, back in the day when we had proper tungsten bulbs that were hot, you would never put a gel over the modelling lamp because it would melt. LED modelling lamps have changed all that, but they do still have a problem, which is you just can't trust the light from the modelling lamps to represent the colour of your gels. Let me show you. So I've got a blue gel on one side and orange gel on the other. Well, I can see the blue. That orange doesn't look very orange. In fact, it looks almost normal. So what's going on? And the answer to that is around the back of the flash, and it's the color balance, because many of the modeling lamps you can get today have a bicolor effect, which means you can change the color of the modeling lamp, and this one is set to be particularly warm. So it's not representative of the flash, because the flash is just one color of light. It also doesn't know what white balance I might have dialed into my camera. So if you're going to use gels, use them as a guide rather than accurate color representation. So let's adjust it and take a few photos. LED modeling lamps, well, they still produce heat, so if you are using gels, you might want to consider turning the brightness down so you don't overheat anything. The thing to remember about modeling lamps is, although they are an entirely different light to the flash, their job is to give you a rough and ready guide to the sort of light you might actually get, save you some time in the long run. But there's also another thing to remember, not all modeling lamps are the same. For example, the modeling lamp on the Flashpoint Evolve 200 Pro Mark II can change its color. The modeling lamp on the Flashpoint Explore 400 can turn off when the flash fires. And the Flashpoint Explore 100 has a modeling lamp too. It's just not much use in here because it's not very bright. However, modeling lamps are a great feature that you definitely should be checking out. And if you've got any questions about modeling lamps, leave me a comment down below. And if you've enjoyed this video, let me know too. And of course, if you haven't already done so, don't forget to click on that subscribe button. I'm Gavin Hoey. Thanks for watching.